Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you this morning. I hope you're well and cheerful on this Friday morning. Great to see you, and thank you for joining us for our Bible talk this morning. If I'm going to give you two or three notices this morning, if I may. Firstly, this weekend, we'd love to see you if you want to worship with us online. There's a meditation 5:30 tomorrow, Saturday, 5:30 in the evening. Sunday morning, there's a service live stream from St. Bart's at 10 o'clock. There's a service from Stan's at 11:45 and a choral evening song from St. Bart's 5:30 Sunday evening as well. So lots of lovely service if you join us for over the weekend, and we'd love to see you, and we'd be better with you if you join us. That'd be great. Easter Sunday, we are reopening our church again for public worship on Easter Sunday. What a wonderful way of celebrating the resurrection. And we have a nice problem. Our 10 o'clock service is now absolutely full to capacity. But may I remind you, if you haven't got a ticket already, there are lots of opportunities for you. There's a dawn service at 6 o'clock. We're going to do it inside this year, very differently. It's going to be very good. Opportunity to renew your baptism vows. There will be some singing as well, lots of noise and lighting candles and things. It's going to be a really, really good way of celebrating the resurrection at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's also a service at 8 o'clock with the Book of Common Prayer, and we are looking at having an extra service at 12 o'clock as well, because as I said, we're full at 10, which is a lovely problem to have. But either way, do join us. We'd love to see you. Keep booking in, and let's celebrate the resurrection. And won't it be great to be together to worship? May I remind you also, this is the last notice, the next couple of weeks, these morning talks are going to be led by my colleagues, a bit of a change of voice, and it's going to be great. And looking at the trial and the Last Supper and the death of Jesus over the next few days. So a change of voice, a bit of a treat for you. My colleagues, starting with Mike Hibbs on Monday, looking at the passion and the death of Jesus. So it starts on Monday, and do join us for these morning and evening talks. Phew, end of preamble. We are now working our way, as you know, through the Gospel of John. And Jesus he's talked about the Good Shepherd and so on. And in chapter 11, you get the impression he's kind of gone away for a bit. And Jesus had some very, very good friends called Martha and Mary. And Martha and Mary lived at a place called Bethany. Now, if you've never been there, Bethany is actually very, very close. It's only about 2 miles. It's easily walkable from Bethany to Jerusalem. But anyway, Jesus has gone away, and he hears some rather sad news. So here goes. John chapter 11, I'm reading verses 1 to 16. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent a message to Lazarus, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." But when Jesus heard it, he said, "This illness does not lead to death, rather it's for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Accordingly, though Lazarus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, "Let's go to Judea again." The disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Jews were just now trying to stone you, and you're going there again?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Those who walk during the day do not stumble, because they see the light of this world. But those who walk at night stumble, because the light's not with them." After this, he told them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to awaken him." The disciples said to him, "Lord, if he's fallen asleep, he'll be all right." Jesus, however, had been speaking about his death, but they thought he was referring merely to sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I'm glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let's go to him." Thomas, who was the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let's also go, that we may die with him." And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, Jesus has kind of gone away for a bit, and he hears this awful news that his friend Lazarus is dying. He's gravely ill. But the strange thing about this is that Jesus doesn't move. Jesus doesn't come rushing back. Now, there are all sorts of reasons why he might have come back. Firstly, because the Bible is very clear. He loved Lazarus, and he loved Martha and Mary. I get the impression that he's kind of his good friends. He loved them, so good reason for coming straight away. Secondly, Jesus has already demonstrated his power over sickness, so Jesus could have done something about it if he wanted to. That's reason number 2, why he could have come. Thirdly, he gets the impression he's kind of manipulated by his friend, the one who you love, almost the one you say you love is ill. Almost a bit of manipulation going on there too. And also, fourthly, it's kind of Jesus' normal way. Jesus was compassionate. Jesus did normally heal people straight away. He'd raised the widow's son. Nay, he did it there, right in the middle of his funeral court, after he died. And Jairus' daughter, he went straight away. Jesus' normal way of doing things is to do it straight away. But on this occasion, he waits 2 days. And in fact, he waits 2 days, and in the meantime, Lazarus actually dies. And of course, the people don't understand this. And of course, when he arrives at Bethany, Martha meets him, and she's really angry, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. Ouch. And she meant it. And actually, though, she was right. The question is, why did Jesus wait? Why did Jesus wait? Because by waiting, it meant that Lazarus died. Why did Jesus wait? Well, actually, Jesus knew exactly what he was doing. And actually, to be fair also, with the benefit of wonderful hindsight, we've got the rest of chapter 11, we know exactly what Jesus went on to do. Jesus knew what we now know, but they didn't know, that Jesus was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. And it may stand as the blindingly obvious, but if Jesus is going to raise Lazarus from the dead, then Lazarus has got to die, because you can't be raised from the dead unless you've actually died. So Jesus knew what he was going to do. He knew that he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead, and that was going to be the big one. That was going to be the big sign. And actually, that's what it is. In raising Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead, this was the big one. This was the big sign. Jesus, for all sorts of reasons, this was to be the big one. Firstly, in a sense, this was the time after Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. This was the time when the authorities changed. This is reason number one. Up to this point, they kind of didn't like him, and occasionally they take the chance to stone him. But it's after he raised Lazarus from the dead, that's when they decided, they actively plotted to kill him. That's when the die was cast, if you like, that Jesus was going to die. That's the first reason for that. The second reason is, this was the major sign. Jesus had already done 6 signs. He'd already turned water into wine, proving his power over religion, like God, proving his power over religion. He'd also healed a centurion's son, thus demonstrating, like God, his power to be able to do things even at a distance. He'd fed 5,000 people, demonstrating that, like God, he was able to feed people who were hungry. He'd healed the paralyzed man on the Sabbath, thus proving, like God, that he is Lord also of the Sabbath. He'd healed the eyes of the man born blind, thus proving, like God, to be able to say to the man, let there be light, and there was light. He'd already walked on water, thus proving, like God, his power over the natural world and over order to create order out of chaos. Jesus had already done these amazing things, but raising Lazarus from the dead was the big one. This was the time he was going to prove, not only did he uphold all these other things, this was the time he was going to prove his power over death itself. So he had to do it. This was the big one. Jesus had to raise Lazarus from the dead. Firstly, because this was the time when the authorities changed, and that's when they started acting badly towards him, acting for his death. The die was cast that Jesus was then going to die. And secondly, because he proved all these other things he's able to prove he had power, but this miracle proved he had power over death. But finally, of course, in Lazarus' death and Lazarus being raised from the dead, it demonstrated, it prefigured, if you like, what Jesus was then going to go on to do. That he himself was due to die, and that he himself would rise again. But unlike Lazarus, who would go on to die again at some point, Jesus was dead. Jesus is risen from the dead, and he is alive forever. He then ultimately, convincingly, totally, utterly, and completely victorious over death, and won a victory over death and sin and sickness and so on that we can share in today. So why did Jesus wait? Why didn't he go straight away? For all reasons he could have gone. He knew that he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. And for him to raise Lazarus from the dead, poor Lazarus, I'm afraid, had to die first. But in raising Lazarus from the dead, this was the big one. Because this was the time when the authorities changed completely. This is when they actively sought after his death. This is when they knew that the cross was coming. It also proved that as well as Jesus having power over sickness and at a distance and over the natural world and so on, Jesus also had this victory over death. But finally, in raising Lazarus from the dead, he was pointing towards what he was going to do. Shortly, he was going to die himself and he was going to rise again. But as I say, unlike Lazarus, who would then go on one day to die again, someday, whenever we don't know, Jesus himself, when he rose again from the dead, it wasn't for a while, it was forever. And he's still. And Jesus is Lord. Because Christ has died, Christ is risen, and Christ will come again. Hope that makes sense. God bless you all.